Imagine a world where your most cherished bedtime stories weren't innocent tales of magic and wonder, but dark reflections of a brutal, unforgiving reality. Tonight, on Dark Secrets, we pull back the curtain on the disturbing true origins of fairy tales, narratives far grimmer than any Disney adaptation or even the Brothers Grimm themselves dared to fully publish. From the enchanting forests of Little Red Riding Hood to the opulent balls of Cinderella, these stories have shaped generations. We grew up believing they were simple fables of good versus evil, designed to lull us into peaceful slumber. But what if I told you that the original happily ever afters often involved cannibalism, dismemberment, abandonment, and even sexual assault? The innocent narratives you know hide a history steeped in trauma, a survival guide disguised as fiction. For centuries, long before printing presses and mass media, these tales were not written down. They were oral traditions, whispered around campfires, passed from parent to child, often not for entertainment, but for survival. They served as grim cautionary tales, embodying the raw fears and hardships of medieval and even pre-medieval life. Famine, disease, war, violence, poverty, and the constant threat of the unknown, these were the omnipresent monsters lurking just outside the village, not just within a witch's gingerbread house. These stories were a means to process overwhelming anxieties, to teach harsh lessons, and to prepare the young for a world that offered little mercy. Let's peel back the layers of a few familiar classics, starting with Hansel and Gretel. We see a wicked witch, a cunning escape, and a triumphant return. The truth, however, is far more chilling. Medieval Europe suffered devastating, widespread famines. Child abandonment wasn't a rare occurrence, it was a desperate, often necessary, act of survival for families who simply couldn't feed their own. The witch's desire to fatten and eat children wasn't just fantastical evil, it mirrored the grim reality of cannibalism that sometimes arose during periods of extreme starvation. The breadcrumb trail? A poignant symbol of fleeting hope in a world designed to swallow the vulnerable whole. Little Red Riding Hood is another prime example of sanitized horror. The version most of us know involves a charming, albeit deceptive, wolf and a heroic woodcutter. But the earliest recorded versions, like Charles Perrault's 17th-century French tale, were far more stark and devoid of rescue. The wolf isn't just a trickster, he's a cunning predator. In some brutal European tellings, Little Red is tricked into eating her own grandmother's flesh before being devoured herself. There's no woodcutter, no happy ending. It's a stark, brutal warning about trusting strangers, about the dangers lurking beyond the safety of home, a potent metaphor for sexual predation, stripped bare of any heroic intervention. Its purpose was to instill fear, to teach obedience, and to illustrate the devastating consequences of naivete in a dangerous world. And then there's Cinderella, the epitome of dreams coming true. The Brothers Grimm's Aschenputtel version is far from glass slippers and fairy godmothers. The stepsisters, desperate to fit into the golden slipper and claim their royal status, literally cut off parts of their feet, a toe, a heel, urged on by their cruel mother. They try to deceive the prince, their ambition overriding all reason. And in a final, horrifying twist of poetic justice, doves peck out their eyes, leaving them blind and destitute. This isn't just about envy, it's about the brutal, often self-mutilating lengths people went to in rigid social hierarchies, the desperate pursuit of status, and the grim, often violent, justice meted out in a world without compassion or due process. These aren't just isolated incidents. They are threads in a tapestry woven with fear, pain, and the stark realities of human existence. Every familiar tale, when stripped of its modern veneer, reveals a raw, untamed core designed to both terrify and educate. But perhaps the most disturbing transformation belongs to Sleeping Beauty. The Disney classic shows a kiss from a prince. The Brothers Grimm version implies a less innocent awakening. However, the 17th-century Italian tale, Sun, Moon, and Talia, by Giambattista Basile, plunges into true darkness. Talia, the Sleeping Beauty, isn't awakened by a kiss. She is discovered by a passing king who, finding her unresponsive, takes his pleasure of her, essentially, rapes her. She conceives twins while still in her deep slumber, only waking when one of them sucks on her finger, dislodging the flax splinter that caused her sleep. The king later returns to find her with children, leading to a secret affair. His jealous queen, discovering the infidelity, attempts to have Talia and her children cooked and fed to the king. This isn't a fairy tale, it's a horror story of assault, abandonment, and attempted infanticide, reflecting the ultimate vulnerability of women in a patriarchal society, and the brutal consequences of desire and betrayal. The happily ever after was never a promise, but a desperate yearning for solace in a world that rarely offered it. These ancient stories, in their original forms, weren't meant to lull children to sleep. They were meant to wake them up. To warn them of predators, famine, injustice, and the inherent dangers of the world. They were a collective cultural memory, a way to process trauma and transmit vital, albeit brutal, lessons across generations. So, the next time you hear a fairy tale, remember the echoes of a darker, more dangerous past that still resonate within its familiar words. The monsters were never just imaginary, they were real, and the stories were our ancestors' raw, visceral way of preparing for them. And that, dear viewers, is a dark secret nobody talks about. If you found this journey unsettling but fascinating, hit that subscribe button. Join the FactsBaz 17 community, and make sure you never miss another episode of Dark Secrets. We uncover a new one every single day.